Game on!
For the second year in a row, the New Zealand Festival of Motor Racing celebrated the life, times and career of a New Zealand motorsport legend. Last year, it was the turn of the late, great Bruce McLaren. And for 2011, it was his compatriot and sometime teammate, the farm boy from Bulls, who made good, who, along with McLaren and Denny Hulme, made up the trio at the top. He is Chris Amon.
Welcome to the New Zealand Festival of Motor Racing here at Hampton Downs Motorsport Park. This year, the festival celebrates the career of one of our Formula One greats, Chris Amon. We're going to see an amazing array of machinery on display throughout the show, but first, let's see what some of Chris's compatriots had to say about him back in his heyday.
Chris was also a very talented, very nice person, which unfortunately didn't have very much luck, you know. We used to call him the Poulidor. Poulidor was a famous cycle French champion who always finished second. And I think Chris had an incredible record of second place, but he never made it to first place, always by bad luck, but he was wonderful. I mean, we like him a lot, you know.
Very fast. He qualified very fast. I think Chris was... I hear after in the pit because this was my first race in Clermont-Ferrand, and I think Chris did all down the hill flat out. Was for us was impossible, and it was so quick in qualify, very quick, and in the race was very quick.
Well, Chris seemed to be at the wrong place at the wrong time all the time, actually. But Chris was obviously a very good driver, and things didn't go quite as well for him as they did for Danny and Bruce, I suppose, but he made a mark here.
And another nice guy who I didn't race against him, of course, because I retired in '62, long before he came over here. I knew him because one gets to know people of one's era, well, not era, but at that time you got to know the people. I mean, now today I don't. I'm older and they're different people.
They made a super team, and what's so amazing is, you know, that little island of New Zealand go along and sort of produce all these wonderful people in motorsport.
In all fairness, as far as we were concerned, New Zealand was British, you know what I mean? You know, and Australia were part of the British Empire, so they played God Save the Queen when they won, you know. So it was wonderful, really, and and Chris Amon, marvellous, really, wonderful.
Chris was really fast, you know, and sports car as well, because driver in these days, they drove both, you know. They went in Formula One Grand Prix, sometimes even in Formula 2, and sports car racing, and even Can-Am, see? So they were complete today. I mean, they only stick to Formula One, you know. Yeah. They don't even know what a sports car is.
Well, I wasn't driving when Chris was driving in Formula One. I came along in '68, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Chris's career stopped in '69, was he then? Ah, it shows you how the memory fades over the years. But I never really competed with Chris, probably because he was a lot better than me.
One local driver who remembers Amon's era well is another legend of New Zealand motorsport, Kenny Smith. Here's what Kenny remembers about racing back in that era.
Because we had some of the best drivers in the world here. You know, think of every Formula One driver that come here, teams, and I mean, Chris was part of that. And when you think the problems Chris had in Formula One, despite the fact that he was a super quick, and there's no doubt about it, I think if you spoke to any of those drivers of that era, he should have been world champion. He just obviously moved out of Ferrari at the wrong time because they were going bad. But the guy has so much talent. I mean, I raced with him in Formula 5000 in Surface Paradise in '76, and there was three of us, an Aussie and myself and him, training together, and we'd pulled away from everybody, and it was a 100-mile race, and we could not pass John Walker of Australia because he was holding both Chris and I up. So I moved away and let Chris come in second, and then on a big sweep around the back, I couldn't believe what Chris was doing. Every lap, he was going out 6 inches wider and wider, and he was washing the track, cleaning all the stones off it, and then after about 7 or 8 laps, he just went right round the outside of the guy. It showed me a lesson what he was doing.
Let's go racing now with the Formula 5000s.
A Well, this is the first race for Saturday here at Hampton Downs, the New Zealand Festival of Motor Racing, celebrating Chris Amon, and it is Peter Dunn from Monaco on pole position. Alongside him, Dunedin Steve Ross. They'll get the green flag this time and they'll be racing for 8 laps. Kenny Smith sits in grid position number 3, and alongside him, Auckland's Roger Williams. Now, Smith was very, very fast in the first attempt of this festival last weekend, but then the rain came down and ruined things, and Smithy couldn't quite extend that qualifying performance. That's why he sits on the second row. But Steve Ross has gone into the front as they head down to the far end of the circuit for the first time. A man from Dunedin in a McRae GM1. The cars that, well, not so much made Graham McRae, but certainly made him more famous designing and building these cars. McRae, of course, a regular in the Tasman series all those years ago now, and Steve Ross out of tin tops into the Formula 5000 series and into the front here. Williams in second place. Then the man from Monaco, Peter Dunn, just drifting back a little bit. He's in a March, a mark that Chris Amon knows a lot about. And there is an Amon Formula 1 car in this field. You might get a look at that. It's car number 7. And we will have a look at that if we can. But out in the front at the moment, it is Steve Ross from Dunedin. Roger Williams in second place in the Lola T332. So it's a McRae GM1 leading, a Lola T332 in second. And now the pressure coming on from Jay Esterer from Canada, and yet another McRae GM1 just moving through and getting closer to Williams, and now dives down the inside as they head into the right hander. Williams just shuts the door a little bit as they go around the corner, heading up into the hairpin. Now Ross is oblivious to this. He won't be able to see what's going on behind him. Down into the far end of the Hampton Downs circuit, 2.8 kilometres, and now up the big hill for the first time. Ross in the front, Williams in second, being monstered at the moment by Jay Esterer, the Canadian, making a triumphant return here to Hampton Downs. In the rain of last week, he crashed, bent the McRae, couldn't compete, so really, to have the meeting called off was a godsend for the very quick Canadian. Williams has a good long look at Ross as they go into one of these sweeping corners on this undulating 2.8 kilometre circuit. It really is a masterpiece. Up and over the top they come once again. Williams gets a little bit closer, but so too does Esterer, and Esterer uses the better power of the GM1 to go across the stripe and take second place. And now really putting the acid on Steve Ross. The question everyone's asking is, where is the master? Where is the MSC Formula 5000 Revival Series champion Ken Smith? And there he is. Oh, a big lock up there from Williams, and that's cost him space, if not position. Esterer goes into the front now. The pressure works, and he gets past Steve Ross. Huge field of these Formula 5000 cars reveling in this changing elevation, the undulations, the off-camber corners, the hairpins, the hills here at Hampton Downs. There is Roger Williams in the T332, the Lola, but ahead of him it is 2 New Zealand heritage cars, the McRae GM1s, Esterer from Canada in the front, Steve Ross from Dunedin in second. Here comes the pressure from Williams. Sneaks right up under the rear lid spoiler, trying to get as close as he can, maybe disturb the aerodynamics around Ross to make a little bit of an advantage as they come up the hill once again. Full speed in these small block Chevy powered Formula 5000s. Had their heydays in the 70s, but gee, their heyday has come again here. A huge field of 5000s representing all the major marques in all the major countries that race the 5000s, the English, the Canadians, the USA, Australia and New Zealand. And it's the New Zealanders that have been waving the flag. It's a New Zealand car that is leading the race at the moment, but it's not a New Zealander in it. It's Jay Esterer from Canada. There is Ian Clements, a past Formula 5000 Revival Series champion out of Christchurch, having his own little battle there. As we go back to the front of the field, Williams has got around Steve Ross now, and Ken Smith knocking on the door. Great performance coming here from number 139, and that is Clark Proctor in the brand new car for Clark. He only bought this car just a week ago on the eve of the New Zealand Festival of Motor Racing celebrating Chris Amon. It is the ex-Tony Roberts March. So this is Roger Williams. Across the stripe he goes, and already being distanced by the rest of the field. Yellow flags fly, so there's been an incident in that very difficult off-camber turn 1, and you'll see when we get a shot as they come up over the hill, as they come up over the top, that turn is absolutely blind, and you hit it at just about terminal velocity. There's the man that sat his car on pole. That's Peter Dunn from Monaco in the March. He's made the trip here for the Chris Amon celebrations, the New Zealand Festival of Motor Racing. Already into the lap traffic, you just get a glimpse of the Lola T430 of Ken Smith, number 4 in the Belgian team colours. There's a blast from the past if ever there was one. The past Gold Star champion of New Zealand, number 99, Reg Cook. For the last 15 or so years, he's been concentrating on rallying and not the single-seater stuff. But great to see him in a Formula 5000. Oh, there's a problem here for Williams, a mechanical issue for the popular Aucklander, and that means he will take no further part, and it means Steve Ross has re-inherited second place, but now he's under intense pressure from the master, the 69-year-old Ken Smith, 3 times a New Zealand Grand Prix champion and 4 times the Lady Wigram champion. Oh, and Kenny Smith using all the track and then a little bit more to try and find a way around Steve Ross as we go back and have a look at injured Roger Williams heading back into the pits. There is the car I talked about before. This is car number 7, and it is a Chris Amon. It's a Formula 1 car, in actual fact. And it's owned at the moment by Ross Maiden. He's brought it all the way from the UK to celebrate with us here for Chris Amon. There's number 31. You see the 1 on the side of the car? Well, I looked back through the record books, and to my knowledge, Jay Esther has never won a championship, but he's got the cheeky 1 on it, and he's doing the job at the moment. The Canadian out in the front. Steve Ross in second place, coming under intense pressure now from Ken Smith as they take the big run up the hill once again. Look at Ross just using all the track, shutting the door for Smith. Smith just tucking into the draft. Is he content to follow? He won't be, because this will be the last lap here at Hampton Downs for the first Formula 5000 race of the day. And Smith dives down the inside. Well, that's a brave move, because as I said, as you come over the top, head for turn 1, it is absolutely blind, but Smithy's made it stick. So now he is in hot pursuit of Jay Esther. Well, we saw this a few years ago when Esther made his first appearance at the MSC Formula 5000 Revival Series. That was at a rain-soaked power-built raceway in Christchurch for the Lady Wigram Trophy. There, Ken Smith got the better of him. Here, the tables have turned. It is Jay Esther in the front. Smith starting to close them down. They work their way through the hairpin. Well, time is running out for Ken Smith to try and make a challenge on Jay Esther from Canada. He competes regularly in the Formula 5000 Revival Series up in the United States of America and in Canada. Runs a McLaren Can-Am car as well, so he's living the best of both worlds. As he comes up over the top once again, it is the McRae GM1 leading the Lola, and then it's another McRae GM1 in 3rd place. Back in 4th place, and it's a pretty distant 4th at the moment, but what a great debut for Clark. In fact, 5th place is Clark Proctor just in front of him. Another great performance coming from young Michael Lyons. He sits in 4th as we concentrate on this front 3. Here's a little bit of a battle going on further down through the field. This is car number 12. This is Warwick Mortimer. Well, he divides time between his 5000 and his red-hot open BMW in the Castrol BMW series. I think if you asked him, he'd probably say he likes the 5000 a little bit better. This is the race leader, though. Esther, Smith, Ross, the 3 of them go through. In 4th place, as we said, Michael Lyons. Great performance from the young man from the UK, the son of Frank and Judy Lyons, who've been coming here for years and years and years. In fact, Frank in this race in a Gurney Eagle, built and raced by Dan Gurney, as we go back to the front as they head up and over the top once again. This car has certainly got the wheels on the rest of the field, and I can tell you that Ken Smith has done the fastest lap time so far, a 1:01.2. So that may give him pole position in race 2, the all-important Tasman Cup. There he is, number 4, Ken Smith. He's got to be content with 2nd place. The win goes to Jay Esther from Canada in the McRae GM1. So it is Esther takes the win from Kenny Smith. Steve Ross is 3rd, and as I said, a great performance from Michael Lyons, and Clark Proctor in his debut in a 5000 finished 5th.
Marianne Brown, we're here at the New Zealand Festival of Motor Racing at Hampton Downs, and what a great event, a great festival for Auckland City.
Oh, it is. It's fabulous, and it's good to see the 2 areas of Waikato and Auckland working close together, supporting Hampton Downs. Half Auckland's emptied out into this, or the drag strip next door. So, but it's a fabulous facility, and my hat off to the investors who've basically put this together through private enterprise and really put a brilliant amenity in place. And perfect day for it, really, not too hot. See some of these vintage old cars and to meet someone like Chris Amon, one of our great sporting legends, it's just fabulous, and I just want to support it. We've just had the F5000s, and I remember as a younger fellow in the 70s and 80s going out to Pookie and watching that stuff. And as exciting now as it is then, I mean, to see the old machinery come out and still be there, it's great. And just to remind us that for the motorsport community, we've got to keep supporting that and make sure we bring the next generations of Chris Amons and Bruce McLarens and the Beardies, make sure that generation is coming through and supporting.
So some terrific action so far here this weekend at the New Zealand Festival of Motor Racing at Hampton Downs. Plenty more race action coming up after the break.